Hey everyone, I'm Cookie Brothers with FCF International, and we exist because no one should do ministry alone. In 1981, my husband Fred and I were serving in ministry in South Africa, and in prayer one day, the Lord led me to Isaiah 58, and in particular verse 12, "Those from among you shall build the old waste places. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations, and you shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to dwell in." And this verse has truly been a cornerstone verse for my life and ministry. But in recent years, I've learned enough to know that I need to know more about Isaiah than just one verse in particular. So here's a snippet of what I've learned. Isaiah was a prophet in Judah in the southern kingdom. He was a significant prophet in the Old Testament because he spoke about both immediate circumstances and also about God's ultimate plan of redemption in the earth, which is so amazing. In the book of Isaiah, the first 39 chapters are Isaiah the prophet's words of prophecy to awaken God's people to his expectations. You see, they'd fallen away completely. They'd rebelled against God and against his plan for them. But then, all of a sudden, in chapter 40, Isaiah begins to talk about redemption. And he's not just telling them what they were doing wrong, he starts talking about motives and heart condition. And then in chapter 58, when he's talking about the fast, he's telling them to not just let it be a religious act or with a rebellious heart, but to fast for the reasons that God designed, to help others. And in so doing, they would experience righteousness and the glory of the Lord. And it's in this state, righteousness and the glory of the Lord, that you rebuild and bridge the gap. One of my mentors, Dr. Dean Radke, talks about gaps management from a leadership point of view. And he talks about it this way. Gaps are things that are off track, off the mark, not on the straight and narrow. You have to give careful attention to those things. Your job is to never take your eye off of what God told you to do. The Holy Spirit can alert you to a gap before you ever recognize it. And when you encounter a gap, you, as the leader, direct constructive change for God's desired future. You can't afford to get stuck doing. You shouldn't do something for someone else when God has given them the ability to do it. He's given them the ability to think and to take on the responsibility that they've agreed to. So, when we don't arrest gaps and deal with them, this is where we stagnate, plateau, and underachieve. Now, here's why gaps persist. You didn't recognize them, and although we might have recognized a gap, we didn't prioritize it. And then after a gap is identified and prioritized, then a plan must be developed on how it will be addressed. So here's the 3 necessary steps: identify, prioritize, and mobilize. One of the main points here is to close a gap in business. The leader should be empowering and entrusting those around him to think and take responsibility for the constructive change for God's desired future. The same is true for us. To close gaps or build bridges, we have to empower and entrust the generations around us to get the job done. And that happens when we as leaders have the right motivations and are kingdom purposed and not self-focused. Let's take the necessary steps. Let's identify those generations who can do the work of the ministry. Let's prioritize discipling them, and then let's joyfully mobilize them to do the job at hand. Hey, don't forget to join us in Tulsa, Oklahoma this June on the 18th to the 20th for our Vanguard event. This year, our focus is on bridge building, which I love because that's what we're talking about, so don't miss it. We want to see you here.